Welcome to Eyes and Teeth Season 8, Episode 87, and Part 2 of the Grand Order of Water Rats. Our order, as I mentioned in the last edition, was home to many funny members, true legendary comedians, and Tom O'Connor was one of those. Just days ago, the social media alerted the world that we had lost one of our greats, and what a sad start to Sunday, 18th of July, the day before Freedom Monday, whatever that means. I last saw Tom in the Water Rats Lodge about 3 years ago, and that same year when he spoke at the service of Dave Evans. His words were genuine, warm and funny. I have seen Tom on many occasions bring the house down. He was a fantastic comedian. Of course, I remember him from Name That Tune when I was a kid and other game shows. That's where top comics got the chance to air their material, hone their camera skills and auto cues. When I was about 18, I entered a talent competition in Farnborough, and Tom was a judge. I didn't come anywhere, but I remember wearing a bright green jacket and specifically wanted to impress one person on the panel. That, of course, was Tom. He came backstage and gave me some constructive advice before I left. I never forgot that. Tom was popular on the cruise circuit, and I was delighted when I arrived at a ship one day and heard Tom was on with me. I rushed to my cabin to unpack, and just outside my door were 3 suitcases. I read the tag, and it read Mr. Tom O'Connor, and my heart sunk. Because, folks, that means that the actor is having a cup of tea on top deck and about to leave for the flight home. So I was taken over his cabin. I'll leave this story with a fact, but I'll make it sound better than it was. I remember the night on a cruise when Tom O'Connor warmed up the room before I arrived. Rest in peace, sir, and thank you for the years of laughter and inspiration. Today's edition is one of a man I'm very fond of. He makes me laugh and he makes me smile, and that's 2 very different things. Sean and I met in a dressing room on the night of a showcase in Copdock, Ipswich, Suffolk. 3 really funny words. That was in 1998. Since that day we've been in touch. I wish we lived nearer so we could hang out together more. But thanks to the Water Rats, we've been brought closer together from events we've planned or been part of. It's a pure joy to call Sean my brother, because just like my real brother Dave, we hardly see each other, but we laugh a lot, and they both owe me money. Just kidding, they never make me laugh. And for the record, none of them actually owe me anything. Sean and I talk about his first love, not Michelle, but growing up in the circus. We talk about his talented family, yes, Michelle this time, his daughter Lucy, who is playing Peter Pan to my Smee this Christmas in Pantoland, and of course his son Tommy J. The family are a delight to know and to work with. There's nothing they can't do in show business. We talk about the Grand Order, Pantomime, Benidorm, the early years, not the ITV show, clowning, circus, near-death experiences with an elephant, Ken Joy wasn't an elephant, by the way, the Friends of the Water Rats, and so much more. Why don't I just introduce you to my friend, the wonderful Rollo. Eyes and Teeth.
How are you, mate? All right.
I'm very good, mate. It's great to talk to you, always.
And you.
We just had half hour on the phone before we started this. It's nice to catch up, always. So your house is so busy with talented people. I mean, it must be like a circus. Even in the pandemic, you are constantly online, zooming and dancing, singing, juggling, magicking, clowning. It must be fun there.
Well, it is. I mean, I was just saying, you've got to do what you can with this new world we're in. My wife and daughter, as you know.
That's not the same person. No.
No, it's not the same. But I know we're in Norfolk, but these are separate people. A lot of people get confused where we live. But no.
Michelle and Lucy, yeah.
So teach dance, you see, and singing, etc.
Brilliant.
So we had to do all the lessons online and such like. So the house is constant Zoom session. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it pays the bills, Steve.
Yeah, it's like Big Brother there, isn't it? You can't go to the toilet without turning the camera off. Wow. That's good. You got to watch what Tommy's filming. But yeah, I want to get onto your children a bit later, because before they came along, you had a childhood. So I want to go quite far back, actually, because I don't know, like before 1987, when your career started, which it did for me as well, actually. But what were you like as a child? What were you like in school?
I didn't like school, to be honest. And you know when people say school are the happiest days of your life?
Yeah.
That's not true. It's not true. I hated school.
No.
And as soon as I finished school, I went, you know, I finished school. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to get this newspaper called The World's Fair, which was a circus and fairground newspaper.
Wow.
And I applied for a job with a circus when I was about 14, 15.
That's very polite, because normally people run away to the circus, but you applied gracefully.
Yeah, they put an advert in and said, we need work. So anyway, I sent a fake letter from my mum to the school saying I wouldn't be staying on to take any exams because I've got a job. not thinking in my young head, the head teacher may ring my mum.
Oh, right.
So,
just thinking to go along with it.
School, and there she was, you know, like arms crossed, staring.
Les Dawson.
Yeah, I took the letter out and showed me. I said, oh dear. So I had to wait. As soon as I was 16, that's when I did join the circus properly. But as a kid, I used to spend the summers. My parents, my dad particularly, used to take me off to circuses that used to come to Cornwall. That's where I was growing up.
Oh, okay.
I used to spend a lot of time living, hanging around the circus and helping out, and being a volunteer in the clown gags and things like that. Yeah, so that's where I learned a lot of stuff. As a kid, just watching and learning from professionals. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Were your family anywhere near the business? Were they in show business or?
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. No. Well, it's funny because when I was a kid, there was a local entertainer who retired to Cornwall. He used to be on a circus called Bertram Mill years ago, and he had a little job just opposite where we lived in a little warehouse. He used to sign in and out furniture and just be there, sitting there to take deliveries. Of course, I knew he was an ex-circus clown, and I used to spend days going over there chatting to him and looking through photographs and stories.
Wow.
And then when I was about 11, I used to go with him and to do clown shows, bit of juggling and such like.
Lovely.
And I suppose that's where I started,
Yeah, similar story to me and Jimmy Tamley, because I was 12 and I roadied for him. So he kind of shown you the ropes then, this clown, which is, the circus world. And so you were like hooked from then on, really, I guess. And were that all through your teens, were you helping out with the circus?
Yeah. And also, good thing was I knew it was not a glamorous life, you know what I mean? I knew about the building up and pulling down the tent and such like.
You're okay with that, though?
Yeah, and I was very good, and finally, I think the problem was I was the only one who could get the tent back in the bag. But then I joined, and the funny thing was I joined in 87 as a publicity clown. But the clown that was booked from, an Eastern European country, there was problems with his visa, and he ended up not coming. So on the day of the opening of the show, the circus boss said to me, will you step in? I said, yes. So I stepped in as the running clown, which is, the clown that does the bits in between the acts, not the main.
Yeah. But had you been watching at this point, so you'd learnt his, what he had to do, this clown that was off? Did you?
No. I just had to do my own stuff. I had to come up with 3 or 4 little routines,
Wow. Okay.
That day. Yeah, and I ended up staying as the running clown, and this clown got cancelled from wherever it was.
This sounds like a little movie sketch. I love that. I love the way you got into it. I'm going to call this episode Eyes and Teeth and Red Nose. I like that because clowning and circus has been your life, hasn't it, mate? You love it. It's a passion, like me and vents and dummies and things, but yours is the circus. Yeah, it always seems to be around.
I do. I love circus. Even though I've not worked in circus for many, many years, I moved from sort of circus to holiday parks and comparing and kids and Punch and Judy, and then I'm doing stand-up. But circus really is, I can be driving down the road and spot a circus poster on a telegraph pole from 500 yards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just there, you know what I mean? Once you've been in it and you've been involved with people, although I'm not working in circus anymore, you're still part of their community, do you know what I mean? Yeah,
you're part of the blood, and every time I see a circus poster, I love stopping and getting closer and looking. It makes you smile when you see a circus is coming to town, because it goes back, doesn't it, hundreds of years. And you think of Philip Astley and Andrew Van Buren and the history that Andrew is bringing to the current day is incredible. But you learn so much about circus through Andrew, and you've been there, and you've had 40 years or maybe a little bit longer. It's incredible how you've had that love for it. And so Tony Hopkins, this isn't the guy from Hannibal. This is Circus Fiesta. Is that the circus that you started with?
Yeah, Tony Hopkins. I met him when I was about 14 or something like that. And he started his own show. Well, I met him when he was on another circus as publicity manager.
Right.
And he was still is a great circus boss. He wasn't born in the business. He was a school teacher, actually.
Oh.
But loved the business. Loved circus.
Yeah, I bet he could always find out who the class clown was.
Oh yeah. Good one.
Thanks. Write that down.
He was an intelligent man, a good businessman, but he loved the business. And he said to me, when you get to 16, if you want a job, just give me a call. And I knew him, growing up as a child, and I did. As soon as I was, old enough, 16, I rang and give him a call. He got me a job, and for the first couple of months, he never put me in the finale. You see, which I was really jarred off about. I was out the door, so I was out selling balloons, you see.
Oh.
And it really jarred me off. But after years later, when I was clearing out my mum and dad's house when they passed away, and I found letters from him. And he used to write letters to my mum and saying, I'm keeping an eye on him, he's doing very well. I've not put him in the finale yet because I want to keep his feet on the ground. I don't want to,
That's so nice that he actually let your parents know that he was thinking about you in that way, professionally, not to. Oh wow, I love that.
Yeah, great. And he's run a lot of circuses over. He took the name of Billy Smarts and Chips and Jerry Cottles and things, and just a good egg. You know what I mean? You get good people in this business, and he is a real good one.
Yeah. And how did you cross paths with Mary Chipperfield's circus? Did you worked within that, didn't you?
Yeah, well, one year, the second year I was on the show, she provided the animal acts for the show.
Yes.
So it was like in conjunction. She provided all the animal acts, then Tony provided all the human acts.
Wow.
And it was a great experience. That I used to do a walk of death twice a day with an African elephant. I used to lay down, and this elephant used to walk over me.
Wow.
With a big drum, put his foot over my face, bit of tension build.
Oh my god! Yeah, bit of discuss the elephant in the room.
Yeah, yes.
That's incredible.
I had a few close calls, not with the feet, but with the other end.
A pat on the head, you mean?
A pat on the head, yeah, exactly.
So, was you terrified at that time? You was in your teens. So, what was you feeling? Was you happy to do the elephant walk of death?
Yeah.
Anything involved circus?
It just came natural, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a thing you did. That's life, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had people walk all over me throughout my career, but I've never invited an elephant to do the same. Wow, mate, that's incredible. Have you got photos of that?
I think I don't know if I've got photos of me doing it, but I have got photographs of me and the elephant,
Yeah, that's incredible. When did you get from circus to getting yourself a little cabaret act together? And was it Rollo the Clown? And I know that you did magic parties, you did juggling, circus. You've done so many different things like fire eating, escapology. And then when did it get to the act where you turned into regimental, or is this a little bit later?
After the circus, I went on to holiday parks, doing kids entertainment.
Yeah.
And then I got a job at Hunstanton as entrance manager, along with my wife.
Okay.
Just before we got married, and so we worked there. And then I said I always want to do a bit, because I did comparing, and you have to fill in with some gags. So I put together a little act, doing impressions actually at the time, first gig. Okay,
who did you do? Do you remember who you did?
Yeah, but you can't do them now since.
Oh, okay. I think I know who it is. One's got a wobble board and one had a tracksuit.
Yeah. But it was doing sort of Mystic Meg and
okay, yeah.
All the ones of the time,
Sure, sure. Yeah. Norman Wisdom, all them, yeah.
Yeah, Norman Wisdom. I still do it, but the thing is, I was still called Rollo at the time. My first gig was at this hotel in Norwich with Brian Russell, an agent Norwich artist.
Oh yeah, I'd done a few for him actually in my early days.
Yeah, he's a good bloke, Brian Russell. He's a good bloke.
Good egg.
So I did that, and then after a few years, the cabaret adult and the kids one was getting a bit confused, you know. So I then came up with this idea of regimental, which is where I changed it with the. I worked it very camp, you know. Because if you're nice and camp on stage, if you're not, you know, the men like you and the women like you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, in the adult shows. And I guess, were you like portraying anybody at the time? Because there was Larry Grayson or Frankie Howard. Did you look up to anybody in that, you know, like Julian Clary? I don't know, who was around at that time when you started?
I did it very camp, I think.
Or was that just natural?
You know, I am quite, you know, I am a bit quite camp really, but I did it in this way, you know, almost. People go, well, is he or isn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, you mentioned Larry Grayson. I mean, he's one of the greatest entertainers. He doesn't even tell a joke, but he's just
storyteller, isn't he?
He's just a perfect. He's so great at being camp. You know what I mean? And his stories and things. So yeah, I think probably Larry Grayson was a big thing. But there's a bit of a mix of everything. You know, when I created Regimental.
I know that Larry Grayson worked a lot. He done summer seasons and pantos with Keith Harris, and I know you've worked with Keith, and I know that he's Generation Games. So he was around in the 80s, you know, and I guess you were starting out at the same time as me, really getting into it, the end of the 80s and early 90s.
We were quite lucky, really, weren't we, when we had people on Saturday nights like Little Nige and Cannonball,
Norman Collier, Frank Carson, yeah.
You know, lucky, weren't we? And I when I was at sales, we booked one cabaret a week, but we had a good name once a week. And I did a season where every other week for the whole summer we had Norman Collier. Do you know, he was very much like Larry Grayson with his timing. He would tell a gag and then leave 2 or 3 seconds of silence, you know what I mean? And he said to me, the reason being, he does that because if there's a bit of chatter or people aren't paying attention, they let noise go over them. But if there's a silence, they'll look up. They think something's gone wrong or something.
Yes, I've noticed that over the years. I've had a lot of silence during my acts.
Yeah. Well, I usually have the audience silent, so it's the other way around. But he was the nicest man in the world, Norman Collier. And his wife's called Lucy. And then, of course, when my daughter's called Lucy, and at the end of the season, he bought a little teddy to my Lucy from Uncle Norman. Oh. She's still got it somewhere. Lovely man. We're lucky, aren't we, to be able to see these people and.
Oh, definitely. And he was we'll get onto this. I'd like to talk about your sales experience and also the Water Rats, because this is part of a season of Water Rats, and so we can't not talk about one of our passions in this business. But it's incredible when we do get to sit beside these people that we've admired for so many years and actually retell their stories, you know, because they've told us stories and we can tell them to a younger generation, which is a lovely thing as well.
Well, it's you know, some nights you think to yourself, on the way back from lodge, I'm on the train, and you think, no one would believe it, what you've done on your Sunday evening.
No.
If you told them you were in a room with you know, people like that, and you think, no, that's not true. You've been eating too much cheese. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't.
That's me, yeah.
You know, it's an honour, isn't it?
It's such an amazing part of our career, so it becomes part of your career, doesn't it? It's sort of going down to lodge every 3 weeks, and we've obviously missed that the last year. So it's something. Can you imagine that next lodge that we do have? It's got to be packed, isn't it? Because everyone's going to want to get out.
Cool, it'll be a good one, won't it?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for that. Thankfully, we've had a few platforms to connect, so that's nice. But to be in person, and I think being allowed to shake hands and hug again would be quite a nice thing.
It'll come round soon.
Your career, though, you've done the children's magic shows. You do Punch and Judy as well. Did you take a course of doing Punch and Judy, or?
No, I'll tell you what happened. It was the Queen's Golden Jubilee, and at the time, Michelle, my wife, was booking a few acts, you know, doing little agencies. And everyone wanted Punch and Judy.
Wow.
And all the people we knew, John Stiles, and you know, were all booked. But she was getting calls. You could have booked a Punch and Judy that weekend 50 times over. You know what I mean? It was everyone wanted it.
Wow.
It was the nostalgia, the 50 years thing, and all that. Anyway, she said to me, "Right, I've got these. I've managed to fill them I said, great. Who's doing it? And she said, you are. I said, I don't even got a Punch and Judy booth. I've not got anything. She said, I've got one being made, and I've ordered some puppets. So that was it. That weekend, a couple of weeks later, I was doing it.
Straight in there. You keep being thrown into the deep end by the sounds of this.
That's the best way, isn't it? Because you've got no time to think about it, really. But it's been a good thing for me, Punch and Judy. I mean, it went through a bit of a lull where people weren't sure whether it's politically correct or not.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I mean, I did a lot for the Norfolk Council museums and such. I do a little talk about the history of it, and then it fits in with Key Stage 1 Victorian holidays, etc. You see, so not just another little avenue of work, Yeah, the museum said, "Oh, does Mr. Punch hit Judy?" I said, "Well, yes, but have you got a problem?" They said, "Yeah, could you change it?" So I changed it that Judy hits Mr. Punch. Right?
Makes sense.
And they said, "That's fine."
No, really?
Yeah.
There's a stigma, isn't there, around...
to change a bit, but not too much.
Yeah, of course. There is this stigma, isn't there, around, they say, the horrible word wife beating, but then there was a thing a while ago, or this has been ongoing, where husband beating as well, where... And so why is it okay to do it the other way around, because I think men stay silent when it happens to them, which is... Yeah, that's the stigma. It's we could get quite deep with this. It's another conversation. But not everybody eats sausages or will get attacked by crocodiles every day. So it's it's just a puppet show. Grow up, everyone.
I know. It's no different than Tom and Jerry, is it, or anything like that?
No. And times change, don't they? And I guess I remember that when Punch and Judy was being scrutinised in the press, and I think it was around about the same time that El Dorado was taken off the air. So I think things happen for a reason.
Oh, contributional.
You and I'll never forget you in your red tights. The first time I saw you in your red tights, it was in this brothel, and I was doing... it was a showcase. You remember that showcase, 1997, for Graham Colthorpe, Anglia Artists in Ipswich?
Do you know what? Yes, I do. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm a memory bank of memories. So, and I loved that, mate, because I took to you so quickly. The banter in the dressing room just starts, and we clicked, didn't we? I don't mean that me and you both were dancing in clogs, but I mean that night you were one of the first comedians I started to banter with and become relaxed as a cabaret act, because I'd only just turned professional that year. And also, I think it may have been 98, actually, because I've just done a few seasons of Holiday Parks on my own. First time I met Kenny Cantor, actually, over in Summerfields. And then I met you in this showcase, and backstage you made me so relaxed, and we just became instant friends. Tucker was back there as well, Tucker and Dame Lucy Bunn and Reg.
Dame Lucy Bunn, yeah, of course. Yeah,
it was a great showcase, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I remember that now.
Didn't get no work from it, though.
God, I didn't get a lot of work from it.
No, I think Graham gave me a couple of gigs even this year, which have been moved a couple of times, but he's still booking us, which is nice, isn't it?
He's another good one, Graham. Because he rings up, "Are you free?" "Yeah, put in your diary, bang, it's done." There's not a lot of pleasantries with Graham. He doesn't chat a lot, but
he does his job.
He's a dependable agent. You know what I mean? He gives you the price, he tells you the time, bang, and that's it. He's a good one. He's been around a long time, isn't he, Graham?
Yeah. He's one of the good guys, and it might only be 2 gigs a year, but he does it. He still books you, which is nice. Spread that out over 25 years. That's 50 bookings. That's not bad, is it?
No, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. In this day and age, it'd be nice to have that just this year, actually.
Just one would be nice.
So we went from that showcase. I saw you a year later when we turned up at dress rehearsals for Pantomime. No, I was my first Pantomime, which I believe Wally Dent got me. Wally Dent, who was collaborating with Brian Lane at the time, and he said, "Would you like to do Panto?" I said, "I'd love to do Panto." I was 22 years old, and I met you in Peterborough at the Crescent. We started rehearsals with a gladiator called Warren Ace, and
that's right.
Tessa, the DJ from Norfolk.
Yeah.
Do you remember Tessa, the DJ?
Tessa Dunlop,
Dunlop, yeah. I didn't know she wore trainers. And JJ. JJ was the emperor, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
And, still friends.
From Microsoap.
Becky Hunter, yeah. It was such a great team, wasn't it? And who was the baddie? Abernathy? Lee. He was a great guy.
Lee Wade,
Yeah, lovely. It was just such a great team. And for your first panto, you never forget it, do you? The camaraderie that you get in rehearsals. I've got the photographs still from rehearsals and the laughs that we had. And then it opened. But then you got 2 weeks of rehearsing and going back to the digs and just partying for 2 weeks. Do you remember?
That was great, wasn't it?
Betty's house, the old mould box.
A very luxurious guest house. Right next to the crematorium. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
It was the crematorium. I think a few of us had died there at some point. It smelled like it. But it was a wonderful place because the bedroom, was you in the same bedroom as me? There was 3 beds. It was like the 3 Bears and Goldilocks, wasn't it? And but because there was,
I might have been in the same bed. I've stayed at Betty's so many times over the years. I've done Peterborough. I don't know, probably 10 times I think over the years.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And if you've got nowhere else to stay, then you stay at Betty's. But I've stopped in so many. And one year, I don't know if that was I'll tell you who it was. That was the year before when I was there with Wee Willie Harris, and she put some beds on the landing. And me and someone else were stopping on the landing, and people had to walk through to go to the toilet.
No, really.
Yeah, she would just put beds anywhere.
She did, you know, because we had those 3 beds, and it pictures as Goldilocks and 3 beds because there was 3 beds in separated, obviously 3 single beds.
Of course.
We could
move them together though.
And we did. That was a great night. But you did have to. There was another bedroom at the end of the corridor with their own door, and I believe that Ace was dating Katie Price or Jordan. I knew her as Jordan in my dreams, and then any one of them in that bedroom, Warren and Katie, would have to walk through our bedroom of 3 young men to get to the bathroom at the other end. And I remember waking up a few times, seeing Jordan in my bedroom, and this was a dream around about that time. She was still working for the Sun newspaper on a certain page. And so it was like, but she wasn't in our panto, she was just dating Warren, the gladiator.
That's right, yeah, she was there. And she'd just be backstage quite a lot, wouldn't she? And go to the parties and things. Yeah,
she was always there. And then it was it was great because she just hung out with him, because I believe that she worked for Hammond Panto. So I have to say, Paul Hammond was wonderful, and he gave me 3 great years, my first 3 years in Panto. So it was so nice getting to know Paul and the Hammond family, you know, Brian and Nigel as well. So it was a wonderful family experience, the Hammond, and I'll never forget them years. It was so good.
Paul's very loyal, actually, over the years. I mean, I must have done probably about 15 with him, probably.
Wow.
Or more.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went off for a few years. Actually, I did the kids' shows at Thursford for 3 years.
Yes.
And then I rang Paul, any pantos this year? He said, yeah, where do you want to go? And he would always find space for his regulars, do you know what I mean?
Oh.
He was a good and very good quality shows he did.
Yeah.
I did. The first one for him was at Chatham, and that was in '92. And he was one of the first panto producers to bring the Australians over. You know, the soap stars.
Was he really? Who was that?
Yeah.
Was it Holly Valance? Who was it?
Well, that year it was a girl called Nicole Dixon, and she played Bobby on Home and Away.
Home and Away.
Home and Away was massive.
Yeah,
massive
it was
then.
huge.
And she would go out the stage door for some lunch with a boyfriend, and literally the high street, she was chased one day by a gang. I mean, it was literally that mad. It was like Aussie Mania. You know, it was huge.
Home and Runaway. Yeah.
Now I think it's still on Channel 5, but then Home and Away was massive, wasn't it? It was really massive.
Yes, it was huge. I've done panto twice now with Carl Kennedy, the wonderful Alan Fletcher. I love the guys. I always grew up watching Neighbours, you know, and he was a staple character in the show. He still is, I think, 30 years later. But he's got this massive fan base. A lot of students, actually. I'd done Morvern with him in 2004, and so many students would fill up the auditorium, and his fan base, and he's got a band as well, a brilliant band that he worked with. So he would go and do universities. He'd come back, you know, about 4 months later after panto, and we met up, and went to see his band, and he was brilliant because he sung in the panto. So, but
I didn't know that.
yeah, Neighbours. And I'll send you a link to his website because he sells his albums and you can listen to his songs. And he's brilliant. He's such a great guy. But these people with Neighbours and Home and Away, they were the soaps that the kids grew up watching, weren't they? If you didn't watch Corrie or Emmerdale, then EastEnders, then we would watch, Hollyoaks, Home and Away, and Neighbours.
Yeah.
And Sons and Daughters.
Ice and Teeth.
It was a good move to get them in pantos, you know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people with pantomime say, oh, they're not proper panto performers. But it's always happened, you know what I mean? Even years ago when you used to get, like, Freddie and the Dreamers or Carol Denver or something in pantomimes, it's just to put bums on seats, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. It was so nice to work with a comedian and with a radio DJ, Gladiators, Page Free Girls. It's actors, singers, dancers, ventriloquists, magicians. That's what panto's about. It brings the industry together, isn't it? And obviously the industry was in tears last Christmas. You must have been quite sad not being able to do panto. Were you lined up to do it?
Yeah, I was looked to do. Actually, me and Tommy were going to go back. We did Aladdin for Tony Pears up at Scunthorpe.
Yes.
The year before that, and then last Christmas we was going back to do Captain and Mate, doing a double act, in Dick Whittington.
Oh, right.
Back at Scunthorpe, and that got cancelled. And then, of course, Gary Starr rang up and said he's got a little three-hander or four-hander down the kids' mini pantomime in Deal in Kent.
Okay.
But then that got cancelled, and then luckily. Gary had a contract to put some shows onto a drive-in panto, an American company they started called the Parking Lot Social, and it was a drive-in pantomime. So I directed a couple of shows for him.
Wow.
And then I went and stood in, you see, as, I don't know if you remember, at the end, the drive-in shows got banned. At the end, they said you can't have drive-in shows. So the last bit of the tour around Scotland got cancelled. So I went and stood in as stepmother, wicked stepmother.
Right.
So it's the most bizarre thing. It was quite emotional, really. I didn't expect it. I went on stage. You could hear nothing. You couldn't hardly hear the actor next to you.
No.
Because people were beeping their horns instead of booing and cheering. They were beeping their horns, flashing their lights.
Really?
But then, of course, kids are like these. You could see them a little bit that they're sat on the grown-ups' laps.
Yeah.
And when a kid starts beeping their horns, they don't always do it at the right time. So it could be like a love scene.
You got the horn.
You got the horn.
Wow.
And, I tell you what, though, you see like people with like estate cars with the backs up, with kids with like duvets and they had the music and the show coming through their car stereo, you see.
Yeah.
And you could order on an app. You could order food that was taken to your car, delivered. So it's so well organised.
Yeah, they've tried so hard.
But it's just another way that people have adapted,
Oh, conversational.
I'd like to go back to 1999 because after I finished the pantomime, you asked me if I'd like to join you in Benidorm. Now, at the time, obviously, I just started panto and then I had no work until the summer because like April, May, I started to have some holiday parks. So I was available in January. I had like 4 months off. And you said, I've got a 2-week job. Wee Willie Harris has pulled out. Yeah. Will you join me in Benidorm? Straight after panto. I thought, oh my God, yes, of course I'll come with you. Because we really got close and I loved your company. So to go to Spain with you for a couple of weeks is incredible. So we did. And I remember, I think you said, Wee Willie Harris said that you could buy his plane ticket off him. So you gave me his address. I drove round to Wee Willie Harris's house. Nice to meet you, sir. He went, oh, there you go. 76 quid for the flight to Benidorm. Oh, brilliant. So I give him the money, 80 quid or something. Didn't get the change. I thanked him. I went away. I think he couldn't go to do the gig because there was no piano or keyboard out there or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he couldn't take his own. Yeah, so I've now got this plane ticket with Wee Willie Harris's name on. I've not really flown anywhere before then, so I'm thinking this is all right. This is you can't use someone else's ticket with their name on. Apparently, no. I had to buy another one. But I went to the job. I got to Benidorm, met you there, and Michelle and Lucy was there. What was Lucy, about 1-2 years old?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, she was born in '97. What year was that? What year was Benidorm?
99 January.
Yes, so she would have been just under two.
That's it, yeah. And then you showed me the ropes. But I think we flew out there and you went, Steve, you're on tonight. We both had to go straight on, didn't we, when we got there?
Yeah. That was it. To be fair, it's nice because in the daytime we used to go to the beach and meet up and etc. But I mean, it was. I don't know what. It was a bit rough on it, to be fair. I went on at midnight. I don't know what time you was in your club. I used to go on at midnight.
I used to go on at 11 o'clock, 11 till 12. I was billed as new family ventriloquist act or something exclusively here at Rockefeller's Club. And I go on 11 till 12 after the two blue comics, just before the male stripper. And when you say male stripper, you see everything, even in the dressing room. It's crazy how, they're whacking elastic bands round and greasing up, So, but it was incredible experience, mind-blowing and eye-opening. But I would finish at 12 and I would go and just spruce myself up, grab my 2 free drinks that I'd get every night, 2 brandy and cokes, and I'd run next door and I'd just get the just trying to work this. I would just catch the end of Sticky Vicky, and nobody wants to catch the end of Sticky Vicky, but I caught the end of her, the last five minutes, and then you would come on. So you were on at midnight, so I always got to catch your act, and I loved that because then we'd go out at 1 o'clock after you'd finished. But they were difficult, but they could be fun if there was a stag party and hen party. But they were tricky nights, weren't they?
They were tricky, but I'll tell you what, it was good because you had to work every single night. Yeah. And really, they weren't there to see me. They were there to watch Sticky Vicky, and that's the clientele you had. Yeah. And when I went out there, and I said I do 45. They said you have to do an hour. So straight away, you have to work. You have to use your head and get some more gags in. And I tried stuff out. I mean, I'm not a person to do new gags, really. I stick with what I've got. But out there, you could try material out. And you had to work, every single night. And if you didn't go down very well, the people wouldn't remember the next night. They could come and watch again. They were all so drunk. It didn't matter.
And they did. They did come back. Oh, hello, John. I'll use you again as the stooge again in the audience. We could have paid them, actually, just to do stooges for us, but...
It was good experience, a good grounding with it. And,
oh, mate, I tell you what, I ended up staying for 3 months. It was crazy because I had that time off and I could do it, but you went back, you had your young family and you could only do the 2 weeks. I moved into, I remember you was in an apartment up in a big block, but I was in these digs that the guy he owned Rockefellers, didn't he? And I know that you know how he brought me on stage. How would he bring me on?
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Friends.
Because even 22 years later, I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, and as soon as we spoke on the phone, you went Stephen Friends. And even now, even Tommy wasn't even there, but now Tommy calls me Stephen Friends. So,
I think if you remember, he put your name because I think you had coloured chalk on your board, didn't you? And,
I did have coloured chalk. Yeah, I was doing doing well back then.
Mine was plain white chalk in my club. I think you were the club with it. In some restaurants they do how many Michelin stars you've got. Out there, it's the quality of the chalk. That really.
We're chalk and cheese there, weren't we? You were cheesy and I was chalky.
And he wrote it, Stephen Friends, all one word.
He did.
Tonight, Stephen Friends.
And he wrote it in his accent as well, didn't he? It was.
Stephen Friends.
Yeah, so I'd come and see Reggie Mental. I'd love that, and we go and have our we go and have our big fry ups, wouldn't we? Yeah. Every morning with Lucy and Michelle at 3 a.m, I think, at that same place. And then it was so nice because we got to hang out, and I met Kenny Darnell back there. Did he run a Spanish circus?
No, what it was,
he owns
a property out there.
Right.
I was in the laundrette, because I was in that posh gaff when I first.
Yes.
And then I moved in with you and Barkers in that power block.
Yeah, story coming up soon.
Yeah, and oh God, yeah. And anyway, I was at the laundrette, and they had a circus poster. So, and it was out of date, it'd been used. So I said to the lady, excuse me, can I have this circus poster?
Yeah.
I said, the poster. What's the cover? Poster. No, the poster, the circus. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I said,
Steve, a friend.
See,
Steve, a friend.
So I took it. I'm fluent, you see. So I took the circus poster, and from around the corner, there's this lady. She obviously heard me talk about circus. She came in the corner, and she said, hello, Sean. And I looked for a second. I said, oh my God, Kathy, how are you? All right? I hadn't seen her for 15 years probably. And
wow.
It's Kenny Darnell's wife. and Kenny is a circus. He runs Polo Circus in the UK, but he was over there living almost opposite our digs, their place.
That's mad.
Yeah.
I remember.
We had a few beach days with them, didn't we?
Yeah, I remember. But he took us to the circus with his kids in bright yellow coats and a big bulldog. I remember that.
That American three-ring circus was there, wasn't it?
Yes, and we went with Kenny. That was so weird, that meeting, though, in the laundrette.
Really weird. Yeah, really weird. But when she said hello, it's, hiya, Sean, you all right? As if she expects me to, you know what I mean? It was
As if she's round the corner in Heacham. You know, it's just like... Well, you can't mistake in your voice though. But we'd been there for a few weeks, and in enters Steve Barkley, and so Steve Barkley moves in with me. I think, oh, great, I don't know this guy, but you knew Steve. Did you know Steve before this?
Only because I saw him. I didn't know him. You know, I don't think I knew him.
Right.
But I've seen him a few times because he was on the Danny LaRue show, you see. And I remember when I took Michelle out when we were first dating, you know. I said, we'll take you to see a show, and I took her to see Danny LaRue.
Nice.
Obviously, as like a 19-year-old, it would have been obviously what she would have loved to see. So, and
first dates.
So I know how to treat the ladies. So
take him out to see a man in a dress.
Show, and I was quite really excited to meet him. You know.
Yeah.
Because I've always been a bit of a fan of Steve. Really, he's superb comic. And then he came out, and then reality hit him. You know, here he was in Benidorm.
Yeah.
Or as he said in his act, here we are in Benidorm. It's like Blackpool with palm trees. but the people of Benidorm love Benidorm, you know.
Yeah, they do. Don't diss Benidorm.
No, don't diss the Benidorm. But,
not the TV show.
We had some fun with him, didn't we?
we did, because we was in the apartment, and I remember, I think he had a bit of a struggle one night. There was a horrible crowd in or something, and he was a bit sad, wasn't he, that night? And we had a few drinks, but we had a few drinks. The next day, me and you couldn't find him, and we were ready to go into work, weren't we? I think, or we were.
Do you remember?
Yeah. Can you tell this story?
I said, have you seen Steve? I said, he must be in the bathroom.
Yeah, the light was on, wasn't it?
Lights on. The door was locked. God, banging on the door. Nothing. He said, oh my God, he's done something to himself. So you went out the window, didn't you?
Yes. I was like Spider-Man.
On the balcony, into the window with that. As you opened, what had happened, the door, because the window was open, the door had blown shut and locked itself. And you risked your life climbing on the balcony, however many 18 stories up we were in Spain. And just as we opened the door, Steve walks in and went, morning all, I've been for a coffee. Oh dear, Steve.
That's brilliant. And that was great. We always tell that story when we get together. But who was the guy? George Wilkinson. Didn't he get you the job?
Yeah. Well, the problem was, I can't remember what George Wilkinson sounds like. But because Steve Barkley, in his Lancashire accent, did an impression of George Wilkinson, he'd ring and say, hello, it's George. But then, he sounds nothing like him. That's Steve Barkley doing an impression of George Wilkinson.
Right.
Hello, it's George. And now, if I ring Steve, which I do a lot, I always say, hello, George, it's George. We always call each other George. He's a lovely man, isn't he, Steve?
Yeah. He's brilliant. He's a one-man variety show as well. He does Ken Dodd, Max Miller. He does everything, doesn't he? And he does afternoon matinees. I remember we were doing Gary Starr's Neverland Theatre in Skegness. I was doing it, and Steve was there the next day. But that week he was doing 3 or 4 shows throughout the week, just doing his one-man show. He's, force of natures, aren't we, us water rats? And we'll put shows on if no one will have us. We'll be there, But we find the venues, which is incredible. And I know Gary Starr has supported all 3 of us over the years. And Gary was in that first panto with us in Peterborough, actually. So he was working on the team, wasn't he? He was on the crew, I think.
Yeah, he did a lot of directing and such like for Paul. I mean, he would go all over the place.
Yeah.
The Worthing, and I mean, in them days, Paul Hammond, I think he had about 16 pantos on the go that year. And
he had a lot.
Gary was sort of, he would go and do jobs and edit music, and he's a good. It's good technical knowledge Gary had as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. That shows now in what he's doing, isn't it? With the the streaming show that he's doing. I remember Gary came down to Hastings because I'd done panto with another gladiator, who was, was it Mark? Rhino. Rhino, yeah. Yeah. And Mark was brilliant, and there was Mark Spate as well, a great children's TV entertainer. It was brilliant, but Gary was working on that as well with us. He became part of the team. And then New Year's Eve, he had nowhere to go. So me and Nina took him to I had a New Year's Eve gig. So I said, Gary, he had nowhere to go. So do you want to come to my gig? So I picked him up and took him to this hotel. And they gave us both a room. So Gary had a room, me and Nina had a room. So we just drunk. And I had a great gig that night, thankfully. And then we partied through the night. So we got to know Gary a bit more. And that was like, he reminded me of that, actually. I actually forgot that happened. And he reminded me a few weeks ago that... And he'd never forgot the fact that I didn't want him to be on his own, bless him. And I didn't know it was that. I just invited him along. But then if I didn't do that, then he would have been sat there in his digs doing, twiddling your thumbs. And you don't want to be doing that. Yeah, but we did have great times in the Hammond Pantos. I think really enjoyed the New Year's Eve parties, actually. The one at Peterborough was brilliant.
Well, I see, I used to go home. Because I live about an hour from Peterborough.
Ah, right.
So, and of course I had Lucy, so I used to go home quite a lot. I mean, I stayed there now and again, but if I got the chance, I would go home to the family, But the thing, I don't know if you remember that, it was amazing. They used to take the whole set down.
Yes.
Literally take the theatre down.
For one night. Yeah.
For one night to put the band on and then put it back up again. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was madness. But oh no, it was a different band.
Ice and Teeth.
We always see each other, if not every year, every other year we will bump into each other. But then I got a call from you saying, would you like to come up to Heacham? I'm booking all the acts, and you were booking the acts for Heacham. Were you the Ents manager there? You were booking.
That was yes. You stayed with us, didn't you, at Heacham? But we booked into Hunstanton, Searles at Hunstanton.
Yes.
Yeah, that was going back a bit now, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was after Benidorm, but you were doing your children's show when I arrived, and I stood at the back of the room. I was crying with laughter at the back. You're one of those performers, and I guess it's the circus kicking in, but you can entertain the whole family. So you verge into the adult world, but you can direct all your material directly into the minds of children to create the best laughter, the best sound in the world is children laughing, isn't it? It's just brilliant. But I remember seeing your children's act and saying this is the best kids act I've ever seen. I was in stitches. I was watching the parents. They were laughing. The kids were all giggling. You've got the best visual, the routines, the patter timing, the props, the lot, basically. And you can tell that you love what you do. And then when you finish that spot, which I had to follow an hour later, but you then turned into a compere, and then you brought me on, and I had a great gig. And it's all really down to, the acts that are before you, or what entertainment you got before you, how the evening's going to pan out. And I really appreciate that, how a room is run by somebody, because it sets you up for a great night.
It does. It's very important, getting the atmosphere right. And the thing is, a lot of holiday parks I'm not going to say now, but you know what I mean. It's children's time, 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock, whatever, or 9 o'clock. It's children's time, and they do musical bumps. Now that's not entertaining to watch. You see,
No.
It's okay for kids, but no one wants to watch it. So I always did things on stage where kids faced the front. So it was a show involving kids, using kids as props, if you like, and also not treating children like children. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And talking down to them. Because then it keeps the adults in the room who would come in to watch it, even if they haven't got kids.
Yeah, that's true.
And once they're in and they've settled, and they've got a few beers, they're not going to move. So they'll stay in for everything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to fit together like a jigsaw, doesn't it? An evening entertainment.
It does. It's amazing. It's
And
brilliant.
if it's a quiet room, you know, move the people to the front, get the lighting right. Or, I mean, when Norman did sales for me, we used to turn the fruit machines off, you know.
Oh, wow.
Things like that, little things, and it's just making the artist welcome. You know what I mean? I remember going to a little place, I think it's down at Sheerness or something, and the Ents manager, when he got there was a little coffee and little biscuits and things set up.
Oh.
And after a long journey, it's just little touches like that.
Oh,
which
we love
always
that.
did at
Yeah.
sales. We always got them a meal. It just makes them feel comfortable straight away. Do you know what I mean?
It does when you've had a 6-hour drive. It means a lot when, you know, there's a packet of crisps or a Coke or something, and I know Butlins do it, and some private parks give you a couple little treats, and they come straight up, offer you tea, coffee, or whatever, bottle of water, and it does make you feel. It's nice when you're made to feel welcome, you know. And when we come to sales, you always made the act so welcome. You were the first person on the door to greet them, and you looked after them for the whole night until they left the room. It's because you want it to go well as well, you know. So you want them to be comfortable, and you did make them welcome. You must have had a lot of acts. I know that you booked a lot of top acts at that venue over the years, and you were there quite a few years, weren't you?
I think on and off. I mean, I used to do about 4 nights there, and then I used to do cabaret 3 nights for Avon.
Wow.
Such like. But I think I did 14 years there.
Blimey.
Yeah, we built it up. When we first went there, there was no cabaret acts. There was just like a disco one night, a band one night.
Okay.
And we used to fill in between the band's break.
Yeah.
So then I said, why don't we get a resident band and a resident team and put a show on? So we did. We started doing, 4 shows a week, and then we had a decent cabaret, once a week. And over the years, we had some great, the Fortunes and Jimmy James and the Vagabonds and
wow.
Keith Harris, Duncan Laval, and some great acts, And then out of season, we put on breaks for the older people. We had like Chas McDevitt there, and we did Turkey Tinsel stuff. It was some great acts we worked with. Very
That's
lucky,
amazing.
really, that they gave us the opportunity to book in who we wanted, because we know who worked. We knew who would work there.
Didn't you produce your own productions as well? You put your own production shows on with the team?
Yeah, it was great because Michelle was a choreographer, so she used to get the dancers and choreograph, and then we did like a normal sort of West End stuff and a 60s show and the Disney shows and things.
Wow.
Yeah, we did over the years. We did some great stuff there. People come away to have a good laugh, don't they?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We used to do
Holidays.
Friday nights,
Wow.
put me in the dunk tank and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? It was a great, good times. Actually, a good period in our lives, in our career.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Michelle runs the Rollason School of Dance, so she owns that dance school. Is that? And Lucy's a big part of that now. Lucy's grown. She's not 2 anymore. She's grown up. She's in her 20s, and she's loving it. So she's got a big part in that. And Tommy came along as well. So the whole family are all in entertainment.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
The dance school, until this COVID kicked in, the dance school. Obviously, Michelle was a dancer, then she was a choreographer, and then a teacher. Now she's an examiner, now a dance examiner. She goes on to different schools doing the dance exams and things.
Amazing.
Now Lucy's trained as a dancer and teacher. She's got a teaching qualification, so it's quite a busy thing. And they work together well, which is great.
Yeah.
But also Lucy goes away to do panto or summer season things as well, because she sings and dances. So it's a great thing, really, because they can both teach. But obviously Lucy's very, very modern. You know what I mean? It brings that a bit of youth to it as well. I'm not saying that Michelle's old; she's younger than me. But
yeah.
I had to quickly just say that. But you know what I mean?
She's giving you that eye.
Business, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's just fresh, isn't it? It's nice to involve her as well, and she's grown up, knowing Michelle's sort of style and stuff, and taking that on board, and she's injecting a little bit of what she's learned. So it's really nice to have the balance, and I think it's incredible what you've done with your children, and I love the relationship between your firstly, all four of you together. It's just lovely to see, because I've seen you at a lot of events, shows, charity events and stuff, and the relationship that Lucy and Tommy have as siblings is just beautiful. And now they're in a double act. I mean, she's assisting him in this wonderful show. She presents, she's an assistant, and she's funny as well. But I remember, I think you messaged me once, or we had a phone call about, Lucy wants to learn a bit of vent. So I remember giving you a couple of little tips on ventriloquism for Lucy. And a couple of years later, the same thing for Tommy. And they just, they embrace the business, don't they?
Yeah. I think they both tried ventriloquism. Lucy, to be fair, I think would have been done well, because she was a female vent, and there's not that many about female vents.
No, she was doing brilliant. She was doing great as well, I remember.
Yeah, she did that show at the Princess Theatre with us, didn't we? The Rat Show.
Yes.
And just a little spot, but, they have to find their own feet. I mean, I didn't push any of them to go into the business at all whatsoever. I was hoping they wouldn't, to be honest with you, because it's a bit precarious.
You want them to earn money instead.
Yeah, I think like a get a job in a bank or something. But now there's not such a thing as a safe job. You know what I mean? A job for life. It used to be, get a job in a bank. That's a bank. A bank job is a job for life. But everything's moving either online or moving to India or somewhere. And it's call centres. And they both love it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's amazing to hear. But I think I need a bank job at the moment, actually. I have got the mask to go in there. I just need a gun. So,
to tell you what, it's a bit funny now, where if you go into a bank not wearing a mask, people look at you. You know what I mean?
He's dodgy. He's got no mask.
Strange world, isn't it?
What a world. But we're now going to get onto something, because I stayed over at yours a couple of times. You're a great host, and it's always nice to see you. I remember borrowing a washing machine for one of my puppets once. I think Lucy had this little toy washing machine. It was minuscule, but I used to put lamb chop in it and do a gag, and I can't remember why I put lamb chop in it, but I was, can I borrow this? And so every time I come to yours, I end up taking props away. But I did return the washing machine. It was on loan. It was wonderful, because I looked up on the wall in your living room and saw this certificate for the Grand Order of Water Rats, and it's the first time I'd seen one. And what's this? And you went, I'm a water rat. And I've heard about the water rats, but I'd never been this close. I never stayed at one's house before. So, and then you started to say, you were the one that first said to me, you'll make a great rat. And then I think that's when the process probably started. And it probably wasn't until another 6 to 8 years later that I became one. But it was so nice, because I would see you at these events. I would see you at the Water Rats Ball, and I went on your table once, actually, and I won the raffle.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
Was it a bike?
I won a mountain bike, and what I was so impressed with, it was such a great night sharing that with you and Michelle, but it was, Nina was there and a lot of your friends. But it was wonderful, because Tony Stamp from The Bill, as we know him now as Brother Rat, Graham Cole, so he came over and brought the bike to the table, and I was more excited, not for the bike, but because Tony Stamp brought it over and gave it to me. It was incredible. And so I'm in this little world now that you've introduced me to, and it was just such a wonderful thing to be around. And it was lovely. And you were proposed by Ken Joy. Can you tell us about how you were proposed?
Well, I loved the rats, obviously. From a young age, I was sort of going to watch shows, and I always put some shows on to try to raise funds for the rats. And we booked Ken actually for Searles before, and he was a real old school variety act who everyone knows.
Yes.
And I hadn't worked with him in a show until after I became a rat. Actually, no, I did. I went to did the Theatre of Margate. I went and helped out when he used to put that on. But it was a turn that everyone knew, And even now, I'm meeting people. There's a local entertainer in Unstanton, Roger Dean, who worked the business years and years ago.
Oh, yes.
And said, I shared a dressing room with Ken. We did a tour, so everyone knows him, And he said to me, I'll propose you.
Oh.
And he really worked hard for me. You know, he would badger people, you know, and he would introduce me to people, push me forward and said, you've got to go and say hello to him, got to go and say hello to him. And I took a lot of advice from him. And over the years, Ken and I became real pals, you know.
Yeah.
And, he would ring up a lot just to check how he was. And the funny story, I went to see him once at the Derngate Theatre. I just finished Panto and his went on a bit longer. And he was in Snow White with Bobby Dazzler. Letitia Dean was the name.
Yeah.
And the Crazy Frog. Do you remember the Crazy Frog? Which he hated, right? He hated it.
I don't know anyone that did like it.
Frog.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Lucy was quite young, but Tommy was very young, and said, "Now then, come in. Now, did you enjoy this? What was your favourite thing about the pantomime? Which you shouldn't really say to kids." And they said, "We love the Crazy Frog," which he hated it, and he spoke with a passion how he hated working with this bloody frog on stage. And so years and years later, he now, not anymore, but he'd ring up and say, how are my little froggies? And then
Did he?
Yeah, and he always called Lucy and Tommy, calls them froggies.
Oh.
All the years later, and always at Christmas cards and birthday cards to Rollo, Michelle, and my little froggies.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's a lovely story.
Well, when he passed away, what a shock. What an
Horrible.
shock.
2020, wasn't it? We lost Ken, and it shocked all of us, mate. And he was a staple part of the Grand Order's headquarters. And every time you go to the museum and the library, he'd be there. He'd show people round. He was a massive part of it. And we haven't been back since. But when we go back, there's going to be a hole in that place, isn't there? It's very sad. Him and Anne were just wonderful to see. I always go up there to talk to them when I arrive. And yeah, it's going to be very emotional when we return. We've lost a few of our brothers.
Do you know, when, for a few weeks after, and I got a call from Anne and said, we've got a mountain of magic props and such. She said, I need to get rid of. Would you like any of it? So I went down to see her, and I've got some of Ken's props here.
Oh.
Which I was going to actually work on last year. Me and Tommy were going to do the double act in Scunthorpe together, doing some of his magic props, but I am going to work some of them.
That'd be nice.
It's so nice to have them.
You feel like he's part of you then?
Yeah. I went down to his place and she said, I've got to clear this out. And he had a little office. The amount of old variety posters and books and
wow.
notepads with little scribbles of little routines and things. It was just, you would have loved it, just looking through.
Yeah.
And she said, what am I going to do with all this? Ken was such a hoarder. But it's in a lovely way, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a mini museum.
Yeah,
it
literally was, and some of the Rats photos of him and Bob Hope and people like that.
Yeah, the history of it. And I think that's why, as a curator of the museum, he was an incredible part of that. And it was so nice because he kept it running, and I liaisoned with him when I brought a coach from Eastbourne up just 3 years ago. And we went up there and he showed us around. And he always had these little... He'd always do a gag and elbow you, It was to give you a little elbow and a wink because he'd do a little gag and he'd go, I'll look after... I turned out, he went, I'll look after your group, Steve. He was such a lovely guy and wanted to give them 100% on that chat. And then he'd introduce you to Chris Emmett. He'd tell his stories of the Rats. And it was... I'm so glad I'd done that because I had that moment, that day with Ken, he always made you welcome, didn't he?
And I took over doing the Friends, there's the Friends of the Water Rats, which are like a supporters.
Yeah.
I took over the magazine that he did, and I get a lot of calls now from Friends of the Water Rats who used to ring Ken just for a chat,
Oh, really?
One rang me the other day and said, I'm just ringing to say I've enjoyed the magazine. I thought it was very kind of you. And we was on the phone for about an hour chatting because Ken used to, just have a chat with these people. Some of them are older, live on their own.
Yeah.
And like a chat. And Ken became like a friend to all these hundreds of more people.
He literally did become the friend. Yeah.
Yes. Great man.
It was like that.
Yeah, and he is going to be. When it's the next time he can have a ball, I mean, he bosses people around like anything, doesn't he? You know?
Yeah, I've been there. He said, Steve, can you get there a little bit early? We just need a few things put on tables. And there's not 4 tables at the Water Rats Bowl. It's like, literally, there's about 10 programs on each table, and there's about 80 tables. It's incredible. But he worked you hard, but you look at the result at the end of the beginning of the ball and how incredible that room looks. He was one of the key people that made it look that way, and it was we'll miss him tremendously. And what you've done with the Water Rats booklet and the newsletter is such a wonderful tribute to Ken. He'll be so proud of you, Rollo, for what you did.
I did it because I just thought it'd be nice what he did for me, you know, and all the times we've had. You know?
Yes,
it's just to carry on what he loved. He loved that, doing the magazine and ringing the people, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Good man, Ronnie, good man.
Oh, contributional.
I'm sure when we get back into Lodge, we'll be able to celebrate him properly, and it'll be nice to do that. And I do believe we may be there's talk of actually putting Joy in the title of the museum. There may be a room we could dedicate to him. I think
that'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be lovely. I think he deserves that. You know, we kind of ended up being brothers in the business way before the Rats, but it's been so nice to see you in there, and we look at each other when we're sat in Lodge laughing, and I can just look at you and I just not burst out laughing, because you can't do that when there's a serious chat going on. But I can see a twinkle in your eye, and you make me laugh inside, and I just laugh because of the history and the things we spoke about in the past. It's amazing. But the Water Rats, there's never more than 200 at one time, and the decision is obviously final via the council, isn't it? And it's so nice to be accepted. I had Roy Hudd and Roger de Courcy, and you had Ken Joy and Kaplan Kay.
Yeah, Kaplan, and he's another he was a great king rat. He was king rat for 3 years, wasn't he?
Was it 3 years? Wow, consecutive.
And, I mean, the work that is involved for any king rat, you know, not just putting the ball on, but the people that ring for advice and you know, the stuff that they do behind the scenes.
Yeah, I imagine.
It's just what especially when you get people, you know, the younger people that are still working. How they manage to do an entertainment career and be king rat as well is just it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's the amount of charity function events you have to turn up to, you know, and also you have to stay sober during these events. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Well, of sorts. Which, you know what I mean? It's you got to take your hat off to any king rat, really. And definitely. My God,
definitely.
You must be off
your head. Yeah. When I joined in 2014, we had two years with Rick Wakeman. We had two years with Ian Richards. We had Adja Brown, and then we just had Dougie Brown, which was the lost 2020 year, and now Dougie Brown 2021. So it's really nice to look forward to returning and having Dougie fulfill his term, which would be really nice, and hopefully look forward to a ball in 2021, which would be amazing to get to and enjoy that night. In 2020, you didn't just sit there. Tommy has just done an amazing work online. Lucy's done so much for charity, and both of them, your kids, you must be so proud. They're doing you proud. And
well, the thing is, when this hit, we lost all the work, obviously, and you know, you're thinking, but like you, obviously thinking, well, okay, I've lost my Easter. I had an Easter show. I was booked to do Goldilocks with Tom Rolfe, which we did at February, and obviously that got cancelled. And then I thought, well, at least we'll have maybe we'll be able to run in for May bank holiday. So that went, and then the summer season went, and then sort of slowly. Then the final blow really was when Panto went. You think, God, we're going to have to do something. So Gary Starr, we mentioned earlier, turned his theatre, which he could never open because it's so small. If he ever got to open that in pandemic terms, you know, with social distancing, I think he said he could get about 8 people in. Yeah. So he said, I can sit back and do nothing, or change direction. And he built a studio, a green screen studio, put some online pantos, you know, put them online. And also he sold them to schools so they could stream the pantos to each class.
Great idea.
Because usually he would tour pantos, take the panto into the hall, do a big, you know, a big group, and you had the whole school like an assembly, screaming and shouting. Well, you couldn't do that. But to save part of his business, he streamed them to the schools, you know, which was a genius idea. But all the actors went in one at a time, apart from me and Tommy, or if Lucy did it, because we're in a bubble. Yeah. And he would mix it so that you were talking green screen to a broomstick and doing the actions. And then magically, with his technological wizardry, he created a pantomime green screen
mate.
It's amazing.
We watched you 2 or 3 times just doing the Alice in Wonderland, and Tommy was Tweedledum Tweedledee. The way Tommy mastered that as the part was incredible, and you reacting to Tommy. We saw that panto, and we take our hats off to Gary Starr. What he done and Rufy done on that was just truly incredible, wasn't it? And they've done more than one. They've done quite a few, haven't they? And you can still get them, can't you? You can still download and watch.
Yeah, you can still download them. We did one actually for a children's hospice, which didn't go on release. It was just for the, and they have got several hospices throughout the country. Okay. And they usually have something in, but obviously they couldn't. So Gary did them Jack and the Beanstalk, which they streamed to the wards and to the rooms for these terminally ill children, which was a marvellous thing. But when we did it, it was quite emotional, really. You know what I mean? Because you knew who was going to be watching it and how much it would have meant to them.
Of course.
So we did Jack and the Beanstalk for them, and then he did a Christmas one called Santa Saves Christmas. We did Alice, which was the first one. Then we've done Treasure Island since, and Goldilocks. Goldilocks, which are all, I think they're all still available online.
And people can get that, can't they? They can. Is it Gary Starr Pantomimes? We could look that up and find you and Tommy.
Yeah, I think if you probably Google Gary Starr Pantomimes, there's a link to the online section. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm sure you can get it like that.
Yeah,
they're only a few quid. You know.
It's certainly worth it, because you're getting the experience of panto direct into the camera, and it's so professionally done, very clever, and it's brilliantly funny as well. You and Tommy working together is great. It's so nice to see a father and son get on so well. You know, like Keith and Ben Simmons. You've got this great relationship of trust, and you both know each other so well. You both got this comedy timing that he's obviously learnt from you, and I do love. Last time I worked with you, we done the Greatest Show People up in Norfolk. We'd done this show in Holt for the Water Rats, and I was watching Tommy and Lucy working on stage, and one of the things I noticed was you standing in the wings, and it brought a little tear to my eye, because I could just see how proud you were of your son and daughter, and just they were doing, you know, what me and you were doing when we started out. It was just nice to see that family connection.
Yeah, and they've worked hard, because obviously Tommy didn't do well at school academically. He didn't like school. He didn't go on at school. I mean, I didn't. He came home from school one day actually and said to me, "Look, I really can't do this. I'm not very good at maths." You know, and I said, "Look, don't worry." I said, "I was never any good at maths. You know." I said, "That makes 3 of us." And,
very nice.
He would struggle at school, you know, and he said, the teacher said, "Name something beginning with P that you're not very good at." He said spelling. But, you know, anyway, he wasn't very good at school, so we homeschooled him. Right? We homeschooled him, took him out of school when he was 14, and so we said, "Look, you're going to have to homeschool." Part of that was rehearsing. So he rehearsed every day. He did about 3 hours a day, every day. Yeah. And he wrote, we had a maths tutor that we paid, and then we did a bit of English, but it was mainly rehearsing. Yeah. And I said, if you get a job offer, you've got to do it. And I tell you, he's done him and Lucy, because obviously he's not old enough to drive. Well, he is now, but he wasn't old enough to drive. So Lucy was his assistant, because she was older. They work well together. They know each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they did some great. You know, they from Chroma Pier and Lead City Varieties and the Hippodrome Circus at Great Yarmouth. You know.
Yeah, I spoke to them both
really,
about
it.
It's,
young age,
yeah, it's
really
brilliant. Well, it's just all piecing together.
So, but he works anyway. And then of course he's done some holiday parks, which is totally different than theatre. Yes. You know, to the fact that he was on a unicycle, the giraffe unicycle, juggling knives, but the rooms are not always suited for all acts, you know, and to the fact that his head went through one of the polystyrene tiles in the roof. It was so low. But again, I said to him, you've got to take these gigs, because every gig, you know, whether you go badly or well, every gig, it gives you experience, and it's the whole experience of it, which you can't learn at a drama school or from a book.
No, you can't. So they have learnt so early. But another experience is to get there early and test the height of the ceiling in rehearsal.
Yeah, I know. The thing was, Lucy said to him, look, you have to cut that out because you're on an 8-foot unicycle, you're juggling knives, you need to be upright. And he said, no, I can do it. So he did it sort of bent over on the unicycle, which was dangerous enough. And then he got up to, at the end, to fairly confident, bang, his head through the ceiling.
Oh, great finale.
Oh,
Brought the house down.
You brought the house down, literally, yeah.
Oh, mate, that's amazing. Rollo, I love what you do. I really love that we're still in touch and looking forward to the future and that whether that's Water Rats putting shows on together or just socializing, because it's that friendship that you build, isn't it, over the years, which is just you can pick up whenever you get together again. And so I love that we got that, and it's brilliant. I respect you and I love what you do, and your whole family just bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. So thank you so much for doing this today. Thanks for being on Eyes and Teeth and Red Nose. Really appreciate it.
Welcome. It's nice to chat to you, Stephen. We'll catch up. As soon as this is all back to normality, we'll catch up somewhere.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Any excuse for a party now.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank so much to our friend. Give a big round of applause, even though you're in your own cars and your own houses. Give a big cheer for my mate, Rollo.
Cheers, Steve. God bless you. Speak to you soon. Love to the girls. Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy.
Eyes and Teeth.
Thanks, Sean. And if you want to catch Sean live and find out where you can track and trace him these days, he's on Twitter at Rollo Entertains, Facebook as Sean Rollo Rollason, and his website is www.rolloentertainer.co.uk. And if you are interested in becoming a friend of the Water Rats, then contact Sean or the Rats office via www.gowr.net. Here is today's comedy quote from Sir Charles Chaplin. Life is a beautiful, magnificent thing, even to a jellyfish. Eyes and TV is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett. The Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Kevin Dean. Listen in next time to Eyes and Teeth, the Water Rats, when I listen to and learn a lot with the legendary radio and TV writer and performer Chris Emmett.